I'm Bray Shepherd, 42 years old, and I can tell you that my life has taken an unusual turn. If you had told me years ago that I would be in a place like this, I probably would have responded with a cynical smile on my face. But here I am. I'm in my kitchen, staring into a half-empty coffee cup, trying to make sense of it all. It's just me and my son, Maximus. For the last 8 years after the divorce, it has felt like us against the world. Maximus was only 10 years old at the time. He didn't cry when his father left home, at least not with me. But I could tell he was carrying this pain inside him by the way he sat, looked at the window, and waited in silence. He hoped that maybe one day his father would come back. Of course he didn't. That day, I made a promise to myself that I would do whatever it took and make Maximus feel like he still had a family, even if it was just the two of us. At first, I thought I had succeeded. He was a sweet, kind, and quiet boy, always trying to help me with the household chores. But as the years passed, things started to change. Maximus grew up. He turned 18 this year. He is no longer a boy, but he still seems to be trying to understand what it means to be a man. He's shy. He doesn't go out much. He doesn't have many friends. I tried to talk to him, but he shrugged and said he was fine. Of course, I knew he wasn't. A mother always feels it. About a month ago, he told me something I didn't expect. Something I wasn't ready for. He confessed to using my things, especially my underwear. At first, I didn't understand what he meant. But when I grasped what he was saying, I felt like the world was slipping out from under my feet. I wanted to shout, scream, rage. But the face in front of me was so shy, so full of guilt. He couldn't even make eye contact. I realized at that moment that he was fighting impulses he didn't understand. He was my son, not a pervert or a monster. I didn't want to make him feel worse, so I made a choice. I offered him a way to deal with his urges, but I set rules. I said, "You can feel comfortable, but you can only do it in front of me." That way, I could control what was happening. I could know that it was safe. In return, I told him, "I will live my life the way I want. I will let whoever I want into my home without question or judgment." It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was the only thing I could think of at that moment. Since that day, things have changed. Maximus seems more relaxed, less nervous. He's not as distant from me as before. This arrangement has meant a different kind of freedom, not only for him, but also for me. I began to feel a freedom I hadn't felt for years. But at night I think, did I do the right thing? What would people think if they knew? Would they see me as a bad mother or a failure? But nobody knows what Maximus went through. Seeing your own child suffer, not being able to find a solution. They don't know what that feels like. It's like you're trying to hold the pieces together. Will this arrangement work in the long run? Or is it just a time bomb waiting to explode? I don't know. For now, this is our life. This is our choice. It's messy and complicated, but I'm trying to do the best I can. If you are still here, don't forget to share your thoughts. Like this video, comment, and subscribe for more. I have many more stories to tell you. That's what I thought the first time it happened. I was about to throw up. I sat on the edge on my bed, my heart pounding in my chest. My palms were sweating. I told myself that this was it. What it needed was to be better than this. The alternative was the reason I did it, but deep down I knew it wasn't him. Simple never is. Maximus walked in. The eyes of the room were glued to the floor. I said nothing. He said nothing. We didn't look at each other. In fact, I just sat there and pretended it wasn't so. That it was so was another. It was a normal day, and when it was over, he left. I left without saying a word. I didn't move for a while. After a long time, I just sat there. I looked at the wall and told myself that everything was fine. That was good. Strange things. You can always get used to it at first. I felt like I was punched in the stomach, but it passed. It got easier with time, or maybe I was just better at pretending it didn't bother me. I told myself it wasn't hurting anyone. He's just different. I told myself I was different. I practically understood that I was doing the best. It was a bad situation, and I believed it for a while. Maximus, on the other hand, tried to pretend it was a different story. Everything was fine, but I could see the shame in his eyes. No guilt at all. He said it out loud, but I knew he hated it. Because he needed it. Because he needed me. And every time I saw that look on his face, it broke my heart a little bit. More. But what was I supposed to do? My son was my only child. I couldn't turn my back on him. I couldn't let him drown. I watched him in his own emotions, with me standing on the sidelines. And I did what I always do, with a brave face and pushed forward. For her? For me? For us? I don't know. Most days I do the right thing, but I'm not even sure what the right thing is anymore. This is where we are. This is the life we've built, and that's enough for now. That's how it was supposed to be at first. It wasn't. That's why it's different. Maximus stuck to the routine, if you can call it that for once. In the morning, sometimes again in the evening. It wasn't predictable, but it was manageable. I told myself it was just a thing. He's reached a stage where he's tired of it. Once it wore off, it would subside. But I was wrong. Instead of slowing down, at first it gradually picked up. Morning turned to afternoon and then a night. Then 2 mornings. Back. When I started coming back, I realized how quickly I'd noticed. The times of day started to turn. Around this, the arrangement involved less yawning. Moments when there was normally less air. The house didn't feel heavy with what? We agreed. I tried to ignore it. I pushed it to the back of my mind, but it always hung there like a shadow. The first time I felt uncomfortable about it, I was in the middle of the fold, the laundry. Maximus walked in without saying anything. An expression of words, his tense body. His tongue was rough. I knew what he wanted. Before he could say anything, he took off his clothes and sat on the edge. I was waiting on the couch for him to finish, but this time something was different. When he finished, he didn't leave right away. He looked at me like he was staring at me. I was trying to say something, but I couldn't. Find the words. I felt my stomach contract. The weight of the moment pressing down, like a stone on top of me. "You're okay?" I asked, my voice softer than I wanted. He nodded, but I could see it in his eyes. It wasn't about relaxation anymore. I couldn't do much more that night. I slept. I stared at the ceiling and watched it over and over. I replayed that day over and over in my mind. I tried not to think about it too much. I was imagining it, but deep down I knew. Better. It wasn't just a way out for him. It was something he couldn't handle anymore. He was beginning to need something, to start trusting. And the scariest part was that I didn't know how to stop him. In the days after Maximus's death, the behavior changed even more. He stopped waiting, trying to hide it. The right moments, it was as if he didn't care. There were no more boundaries as we had agreed. He was given a free pass to do whatever he wanted. When he wanted, and maybe if I had given him the freedom to do that. The first time I teased him, it didn't happen. It was an accident. I was there. I was making dinner when he came into the kitchen. I could feel him watching me as I moved. I could feel his eyes following my every step around. I don't know why I did it. Maybe I wanted to break the tension, or maybe I wanted to test him to see how far he would go. But without thinking, I took off my jacket. The days blurred into each other. The moments when Maximus looked at me were sometimes a storm of anger, sometimes a deep silence. Enrique, on the other hand, began to appear at home more often. At first, he only made short visits, but now it had become a routine. Seeing Enrique at breakfast in the morning had become commonplace. One evening, Enrique turned toward me as we sat on the porch and said, "I haven't seen you so thoughtful in a long time." His eyes were on me, looking deeply into me, as if he wanted to see into my soul. I didn't know what to say at that moment. The urge to say everything openly was on the tip of my tongue, but the words stuck in my throat. "I'm tired," I finally said. My voice was soft but firm. Enrique put his glass down on the table and took a step closer. "I'll do whatever it takes to fix this," he said. But the word fix made me wince. Because this life, this order, didn't seem like something that could be fixed. Like a broken vase. It could be glued, yes, but it couldn't be put back together. Maximus, meanwhile, was losing a battle within himself. My son's eyes could no longer hide his feelings for Enrique. The anger in his gaze that accompanied Enrique's smiles had become almost palpable. His anger at Enrique's presence was sometimes directed at me. Explosions over small things. A forgotten plate. An unspoken thank you.